Thank you for letting me interview you.
You are welcome.
This is Missy Lusk, elementary principal at Madison Academy. It's her second year at Madison Academy, and you were how many years at Legacy?
I don't remember how many years Legacy, but 14 years total in the public Madison County school system.
Okay. So we can answer questions from the public school view as well as the private school view.
Okay.
All right. What impact does the principal, you, play on academics within the classroom?
I think it's my job to set the expectations for my teachers, to let them know this is what I'm expecting. I also think it's important for the students to know that I'm wanting them to succeed and that I have high expectations for them. It's also my job to make sure that the things that we have chosen to implement here at Madison Academy are done. And so I'm kind of that check and balance. Excuse me. We have several opportunities where I walk around and ask teachers what's going on, what's working, what's not working. And then I use those walkthrough opportunities. I am so sorry, I just had lunch to see what we need in the way of professional development, where the teachers are needing more support, and try to just meet them where they are. I also feel like it's my job to have an open door. So if they have questions and concerns, that they can come in and talk it out with me and either answer their own questions in the course of our conversation, or listen to input from myself.
So you have a delicate balance between holding them to expectations, but also letting them feel comfortable enough to come to you and talk when they have issues.
And that's not a one-size-fits-all
right
program. It's each child. And it's kind of like teaching. Each teacher is in a different way and needs different things.
It's like
in
the
way of support.
faculty. The faculty is your classroom.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and you're the teacher.
Yes, it is.
So, do you implement something similar to a comprehensive improvement plan here at Madison Academy?
Well, our school has a CIS, which is a continuous improvement plan that we do for accreditation, and that's for the entire school, kindergarten through 12th grade, actually. I guess it would be even pre-K. Your pre-Ks are on that. But what I focus more on is our data and where we're seeing trends in that data in the way of our instruction and our education. And okay, let's look at this. Let's look at that. So this year we've spent a lot of time getting teachers and teaching them how to look at that data from our STAR test, from our ACT Aspire test. Other than just looking at the score, looking at the meat behind it. Why is this? Okay, have we stayed the same? I think in previous years it was mainly looked at as, okay, you take this test so it'll tell you which AR book to read. And there's so much more information in those tests. And so making the teachers aware. I had a group of teachers in yesterday and they were talking about, that last meeting was awesome because we actually got to see and talk about and really examine the children with the support of myself and their peers, their colleagues, and our curriculum specialists. So that's kind of where we're not so much like a CIP as we had, where there's a team and we're working on a specific thing. We've kind of taken it from our continuous improvement based on professional development that's needed for our teachers and getting them. And this year that was the data, looking at the data and what to do with the data.
And using the data rather than just
absolutely.
like, oh, that's nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So how do you feel your managerial tasks, like, discipline, lunchroom duty, car line, do they have an impact on student achievement each day?
I would like for them to say yes. I don't know. I think sometimes you can see, okay, the kids get it. I want them to see me as a real person. I don't want them to see me as some stuffy person that sits in an office all day or behind a desk that's the iron hand. When I go in, I try to visit the rooms every day and say hello, and the same thing at lunch. But I want them to see me as a real person. And so I think when they see that, they're more apt to come to me when they have issues, but by the same token, they want to make me proud because we have a relationship. So I think that relationship component is very important for the children, for the academic success. sometimes some years they're not going to connect to the teacher that they have. But if I'm their constant, then I can be their support and I can be their the person that they're trying to impress.
Right.
When I discipline, what I love about that is that's my favorite part about being at a Christian school, is that we get to discipline the way God did.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's all about forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, and then it's done, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
We learn from our mistakes. I love disciplining in the Christian school because I get to model my discipline after that, what we're taught in the Bible, that when you've done wrong with somebody, you say you're sorry, you ask for forgiveness, and just like Christ forgave us, we forgive each other as He's called us to do. And very few children have actually been repeat offenders. Once they come, it's enough, I think, of a relationship that they don't want to disappoint me, but they also, I know I was one of those kids that I couldn't just let something go. And so my goal is to always discipline in the love and calm, so where we can work through things. And what is really cool too, I had some kids in here the other day, and one of the girls, I said, okay, whoa, I need facts. Who can tell me facts? And it was 4 or 5 little girls. Well, 2 raised their hand, and the first person to speak told on herself. I mean, she just kindly fessed up to the thing, and I said, okie doke. So I think that's important, and I think I'm talking around your question. It's also important for me to make sure that we're providing the opportunities, and I think that's one of my managerial duties that often goes neglected or pushed under the carpet a little bit, is making sure that there are afternoon activities and different varied activities that are going to meet the needs and the interests of all the children. A lot of kids are into sports, a lot of kids are into music, but then there's that whole group of kids who, I'm not really into that, and I'm not really into that.
So they need the kids' art.
They need the kids' art. They need the robotics. They need the math team. They need the coding. There's something to where we're not just focusing on the arts.
Everybody can connect somewhere.
Yes. And my daddy has always told me a busy kid is one that's not in trouble.
That's true.
And I think too, with my own personal children, I wanted them all to have something. Everybody needs something that they're good at. And so providing those opportunities. Are you good at math? Well, let's hone in on that. Are you interested in this robotics and it's fun to you? Then you go with it. And so giving them those opportunities to where they can try something different, but have a place and feel like they're contributing to our whole community here in May.
Yeah. What role do you play in content decision making in the classroom? And as the school as a whole?
Well, I think with content, a lot of that is based on our standards. So I feel like my job is to make sure my teachers know, here are our standards, this is what we're doing, let's look at them. We are a private school, so if we see something that goes against our biblical principle, we need to decide, okay, are we going to address that from a Christian worldview, or are we just going to give that to our parents to handle? I think it's important that they have the materials that they need to teach the content. So if they're needing a projector, if they're needing textbooks, if they're needing, any type of manipulative, it's my job to do my best to get that for them as money allows. It's my job to check their lesson plans to make sure, okay, we're actually proceeding in the content, make sure they have a plan. You can't just come in on the first day of school and say, this is what we're going to do and accomplish and meet all of your standards. You've got to have that scope and sequence and the plan of action of, we're going to do everything that is expected of us so these kids are prepared. So again, I'm their check and balance.
How do you work together with other principals and the curriculum specialists to achieve the vision and the mission of the school?
Well, that's difficult here because we are a pre-K 12 school, and so that means we have 3 different principals, we have 2 different curriculum specialists, so finding the time for us all to get together and sit down is a pretty difficult task. I work pretty closely with you.
And we did really good getting together when we were trying to get the new curriculum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time, I feel like we've spent more intentional time in the summer getting ready for the school year, making sure our calendars aligned and that we were doing the same kind of activities, and there was that continuity there. We also talk a lot about okay, that transition from the Little Madison Academy up to the big school, the big building.
Yeah.
So I feel like we talk probably on the average of every week to 2 weeks on as far as curriculum and what's going on, and we share a lot of the same people. So we're also going, okay, how is this working and that kind of thing.
So how do you coordinate like the 6th grade going downstairs? Are you
well, there really hasn't been a big coordination of events, if you will. They go to chapel downstairs with the high school for 2 days a week, and then they have chapel with us 1 day a week. So they're still getting to be that big brother and that role model for our younger students, but they're still getting to experience the high school and the middle school world with the comfort of their teacher being close by.
Well, I think like your 6th grade team does a good job preparing those kids to go downstairs with the
they know
higher
the expectations
and
of the middle school, and they're also they do a lot of things to where they can kind of bridge that gap and guide them through that transition to middle school without being a full-fledged middle school grade. Their curriculum is aligned with the high school, middle school and high school, so they go to their department head meetings and those types of things on in-service days and when they have them throughout the school year. One thing that they were changing this year was our 6th graders do exams, and so they had just always done this, and I said, well, wait a minute, but they weren't following the criteria for exemptions. So our 6th graders weren't being allowed to exempt exams. So I said, well, if our purpose is to prepare them for what to expect downstairs, then let's have those same expectations. So then the 6th grade teachers went and found the handbook where it said this is the criteria, and so now that's something we're implementing, which a lot of the 6th grade kids, of course, were excited about it, and a lot of it has to do with attendance.
Yes.
So I think our attendance is going to be a lot better this semester than it was last with those 6th graders. They don't want to miss the chance to exempt.
Right, that's a big deal.
My curriculum specialist, we talk, and we don't necessarily have a set meeting time per week, but we talk every day, and every day it seems to be something else. Hey, I saw, hey, I think, what do you think? So there's almost a continuous planning there allowed, and then we're also taking notes to make for next year. So
okay. How has the role of the principal changed since you first entered education as a teacher? Has it changed?
It has changed. Way back in 1994, it was a very large campus, and the campus was K-12. And then midway through the year, the new high school was built, so the high school moved to the new building, and then we were a K-8 school. And there was 1 principal and 2 assistant principals. Because we were spread out over 4 or 5 buildings, it was just very discombobulated. The assistant principal was also a part-time teacher. So they were a part-time teacher, and then there was also when they weren't in the classroom, they were there to help. And basically the only thing you went to the principal for was discipline. There wasn't a time where you sat down and said, okay, let's look at this curriculum. How are things going? Have you met this standard? There was very little talk about that. It was just kind of faculty meetings were business. Hey, let's take care of the things. Faculty meetings were basically our emails. What we would send out, hey, this is going on, just kind of networking time, which we do in emails now. I see the principal much more engaged on how to better the school. There were no activities, there were no clubs, there were no, let's do this. You had Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And most of those were hosted.
I don't think I ever
in
saw
a church
the principals in my classrooms, just milling around.
They did come in our classrooms. I can remember there were not walkthroughs. Yes, hurry. Jody's alarm keeps going off. If the principal came to your office, there was something wrong, And so other than once a year or once a semester being evaluated, and the evaluation was basically, did you have your lesson plans done? Were the children engaged? How many kids were in the classroom? So there wasn't a deep look at what was actually going on into the classroom. It was just a checklist to just check off, and you either got a yes or a no.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a whole lot of information to provide the teacher to be better, other than can she manage a classroom and are the kids doing something?
Yeah.
You know, so there wasn't a huge emphasis from the administration on content and what's being taught.
Okay. Couple more questions. What role should the principal play in professional development of the staff? And you really kind of already answered that.
I just think it's really important. You know, what I always wanted from my principal is I wanted that principal in my room or by my room enough to where if a parent called and said, hey, my child came home and said whatever, that my principal knew me well enough to say, no ma'am, that is not the case. And so I think when you're in the classroom, when you're seeing the teachers, you know what they need.
Yeah.
Last year, our teachers didn't know a whole lot about differentiated instruction. So we spent a good bit of our time, our first semester, talking about differentiated instruction. And then the second semester, okay, now this is one tool, one method of how you can implement that differentiated instruction. So I want to provide for them those things that they need. And I think it's very important to do that, because a lot of time it's reassurance for them. They realize, hey, I'm doing that, and it encourages them to continue and do a little bit better,
right,
and more in depth.
Last question, what aspects of the principal needs to be improved to implement more instructionally based instruction?
Well, I am thankful to say that in the private school sector, I don't have the reports and the rules and the guidelines and the paperwork and this report and that report and this, that, and the other that have to be done. So that frees up a lot of my time that I know our cohorts that are in the public system have to do. That gets done after school. I do know that having an assistant is a huge blessing, because you don't have an assistant and I don't have an assistant, and when things start to fall apart, they're just not falling apart in one place. The whole seam unravels, and
right,
you need somebody else to share that burden with. So I think that's important. I think it's also important, I do my best planning talking out loud, and so having somebody to bounce those ideas off are very important, and that's one privilege that we don't have. But I think just, eliminating as much of the other stuff, the discipline, the paperwork, can we go here, the small questions, if that's taken off your plate, then you're left with nothing but the instruction. And that's just an ideal world, where you get to be that person. And I think that's why we have those curriculum specialists and those assistant principals, and that's dealing with the parents. That's one of the hardest jobs, because they don't know you, and they usually don't ever speak to you until there is a problem. And so knowing how and having that relationship and being visible, I think, is huge as well.
Right.
To be visible, you can't be tied down, and there's just, it's just kind of hard.
That's true. Well, I was reading the other day that, like, the effective principals have a set time of the day where they take care of all that, the answering emails and, all the paperwork type stuff, and that, so that the rest of the day they're freed up and they just don't worry about that, because that can overtake your whole day.
Absolutely.
If you start your day doing that,
Absolutely.
then that's what you're going to do half the day.
And I think a lot of my frustrations come from, you're exactly right. If you sit down and do that, if I come in here and sit down, I'm in here. Because one of two things is going to happen. I'm going to be bombarded, and one email is going to lead to another email.
Or people come in.
And that's my biggest issue. I have tried doing it, okay, after lunch I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sit down and get my stuff done. Well, inevitably, I'm sitting here working away, and somebody walks by and says, hey, do you have a minute? Oh, good, you're in your office. Can I?
Yeah.
And so my time, and I think a lot of it's because I am on the beaten path. They may not have left their classroom to come talk to me, but because they walk by my office to get to the workroom, they see me, and it triggers that memory. And so I've even tried staying after, okay, I'm not going to even look at this until after car rider line in the afternoon. Well, it's the same thing.
Right.
Hey, they're clocking out, and hey, so
Yes.
that is a difficult time, and it's hard for me because I want that. I want them to feel like they can come to me at any time with
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
But then